Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Tom, one of the biggest challenges that human beings face is that we have this brain inside our head that really is very much like the metaphor of this picture of the elephant and the rider, the guy sitting on top with a stick. The problem is that when there's messaging or when there's a belief that takes place, it goes into our brain and it gets stored like the elephant into long-term memory. There's no mistake the elephant metaphor is going to really work here very much because elephants don't forget, right? That's the whole idea of it. It's got this long-term habit thing going. And then there's this little rider sitting on top here with the, and having a stick. And he's tapping the elephant on the left or the right to get him to go in a direction. The front part of our brain is very much like that. And so this front part of the brain, if you tap it one way and you tap it, it'll go over here to do this. If you tap it over here. But notice that you got to do small taps to get it there. So micro messages gets the person to face, or the elephant to face in the direction that they only want to see. Not a full view, but just the direction they want to see. So the rider is where the conscious mind sits. It's our logical and our rational mind and our future-oriented mind. And all you got to do is tap it this way or tap it this way, and then it gets the elephant to go there, and then the elephant develops a habit. Now, there's no greater example than the way Americans market to the consumers that buy their products. It's small little messages tapped in the same direction until we get the habit pattern set so that the product is known very well. The product has a belief structure that sits in it. The person purchases that thing. And once the brand has a place in our head that's in long-term memory, all I got to do is say the word Cheerios, and your brain immediately knows what the box looks like, knows that it's made out of wholesome oats, and it's good for the heart. Those are the messages that they have tapped our brain in. So what winds up happening, Tom, in messaging is the elephant hooks to emotion and safety and relevance, and the habit is imprinted and then creates a validation. So in the environment, you can see that, if I just tap this elephant enough in the direction for whatever term that I would like to not get people to like, and set this next to this, then what winds up happening is that all I got to do is talk about the term that nobody likes, and then set the thing that I don't want to take place next to that term. So when the word socialism shows up, what has been successfully done is there's been a confusion and a belief and a judgment that the concept of socialism is bad because socialism is what the enemy, the communists, used, and other very strict constrictive socialist countries do is they cramp down on things like freedoms and expressions and things like that, because that now is next to Democrat. So does that make some sense?
It makes complete sense. So it's interesting. What you're saying that in general in America, in the marketing world,
Right.
this technique is done to establish an impression in people's minds of a product.
Right.
And that same technique is used by politicians either to paint the picture they want you to see about themselves, to establish a belief, I guess, in your words, about
That's
yourselves,
correct.
or to establish a belief against their opponent.
Yes.
In a negative light.
That's correct. And all of a sudden, if I want to brand or market in print something, whether you are a person that's for Trump or not for Trump, one of the things that he successfully did was brand all of his opponents. He branded them. Whether they liked it or not, he branded them, and they didn't know how to combat the messaging because his message just got amplified, and it created an elephant response that was actually disguised or did not, things. Now, was there truth in some of the things that he was talking about? Yes, but like a lot of no, but there's like a lot of yes too, is like there was mistakes with this and there's mistakes with that, because human beings, well, we make mistakes. So you can find a mistake that someone makes, and all of a sudden you're in big trouble, right?
Right. Well, and didn't Trump take this to a new level? I mean, and I was thinking in my mind as I was saying that, raise it to a new level, but he may have lowered it to a new level too, in reality, because I'm thinking, as you were saying that, the labels he established for his opponents, like Little Marco,
Right.
Lion Ted, Crooked Hillary, right? I mean, these are the things that he just repeated and repeated.
That's correct.
Until people believed it.
Yeah, well, it's the same messaging, and it's whether there was collusion or no collusion. That's what's important right now. What's important right now is that when a person repeats a message over and over again, it is a belief habit message based on what the writer and the elephant want to, engage in. So like an article that is a fair assessment, like the one you shared with me that we'll get into on a further podcast, but the one you shared with me is, people don't like to hear that they're falling into those categories because their elephant brain has showed them your identity is in with this person. You voted for this person. Why don't we build the wall like this person wants? And these other people are obstructionists, but meanwhile, that's not the experience of obstruction. Obstruction is the experience of one side not letting the other side to do things, and that's not what's been happening. So.
That's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and we definitely, I guess we're sort of conceptually, we're sort of foreshadowing some things we may take some deeper dives into in later episodes, but it definitely was pointed out to me yesterday, in fact, that even when there's I think we should establish and agree that every article that's written is probably going to be written by somebody that has some inherent biases in the writer. They may try to be writing a neutral story or telling something from a neutral perspective, but there may be some biases there. But it seems even when there's an article that attempts to be
right,
looking at the big picture,
right,
and being objective,
right,
if it ends up holding up a mirror to people who have these established beliefs,
yes,
those people that have those beliefs don't like it, and they tend to view that article as extremely biased.
Yeah, they're going to actually search for vocabulary in the article that has voices of judgment or a place of explanation or understanding. How did this person get here? And this is the author's belief about how this is shown up. But what the reader is not reading for perspective. They're reading for validation, because that's what the elephant reads from. The elephant reads from validation. It doesn't read from, here's how I can learn, grow, and get better. Here's how to deal with the problem. And instead it's like, well, I don't know what to do, but my belief is, locked in a direction. So, and elephants actually get into a little bit of trouble here, because when a poacher wants to poach an elephant, they just look for the tracks that elephant has done for years and years and years, and they just line themselves up on the track and go like, well, we know exactly where this elephant is walking, because their habit and their tribe and their thing, and this is the time of year that they migrate from this place to this place, because the rain and the thing, and the elephant's been doing it for years. And the elephant's frontal cortex is not as strong as their habit part of their brain, and they remember, and they have a long-term memory, whereas the front part of our brain kind of scrambles us, and welcome to the world of dementia, right? It's like, you don't know what next thought is, and you are disconnected from the emotional part of your brain, and all of a sudden there's this leakage of stuff that your front part of the brain has been trying to tap down and trying not to deal with. And so there is some neurological and physiological problems that are showing up. When we look at to go to the extreme, an extreme is a cult leader, somebody that leads to meet their needs at the expense of others. And they're trying to get either recognition or respect or self-worth, or even the identity of the cult, or the stability or certainty of people around them to get connection. It's problematic because their messaging is going to be in alignment with that. How can I create greater enrollment, greater loyalty in, greater consistency in? So the consistency of the message is so very important. In our changing world, though, a consistent message is not the speed our world is moving in right now. We are not moving in a consistent, stable way. So where Ronald Reagan, if you take a look at speeches when he first started politics, and when he was getting into the White House, and even when all the speeches had this similar consistent belief structure and stability to them. Therefore, what winds up happening is the people that get enrolled, that he is and has and will do these things for us, are going to, think he's the greatest person ever. And you're going like, great, why don't we ask his son? His son doesn't think that. He goes, my dad had some pretty good flaws. And by the way, those flaws played out, in the way he led the country. It's like, because his humanness, but they can't, a validated brain, one that's looking to prove what's their initial belief about something, is going to be where the brain goes. Now, the third option in this is, how do we shape the path? So if we look at things like restoration or messaging from politicians that are interested in a balanced narrative versus a exclusionary narrative. Exclusionary narrative is, I want my side to occupy the space in the future, and I'm going to be known as that. Well, okay, so you're trying to meet your recognition and acknowledgement, about the way you would like to see America as a conservative America. Therefore, you're going to promote judges that believe and have the same elephant brain that you do. These are the ones that are fighting for this cause because it's going to help the people that put me here. It's going to help my belief structure. It's going to be the way I see the world. And I might even bend or break the rules in order to get my belief structure to take hold.
Now that's an interesting point you just made. I might bend my belief structures.
Right.
Now, I actually have been thinking back on some examples of this, not only, I mean, current examples, but you have to compare them to a past example to see them. And I want to share one with you and see what you think, is that, you know, today we have a president in office who has been divorced twice. There is plenty of evidence that he has had extramarital affairs. And I know then you're going to get into the belief structures of, well, did he really not? I mean, it seems we have some pretty clear evidence with checks he's paid and photos that have been taken. And of course, we also have his own words on this Access Hollywood tape about what he thought about women, right? So there's a lot of actual evidence. And I find it interesting that people that are supporters of Trump are supporting him despite many of their own personal values and beliefs about what you should be as a human being, as a good human being on this earth.
Right.
They can compartmentalize and put those aside because they align with him on other issues that are important to him. And before you jump in, I just want to contrast that with, I remember back in the lead up to the campaign in 1992 with Bill Clinton running against George W. Bush, that I had, so at that time, I had the first job I ever had as an adult, and I was in South Carolina, a very conservative area, and there were coworkers that were just absolutely shocked and in disbelief about how anybody who had any moral character would ever consider voting for Bill Clinton because there were allegations he had extramarital affairs. Maybe, I don't know how much proof there was, but certainly some people came out and were talking about it. And they would be just absolutely be damned if they would vote for someone like that. And how could anybody elect someone like that into the White House? And here, look what has happened in, 2016, electing, someone to office who is all but an admitted, on that same level. So it seems that people, is it correct that, like you said, people bend the truth or certainly change their perspective and their feelings on things depending on whether they're aligned in other ways?
Yeah. So the identity is a big part of it. My identity, or I am identifying with this person. I am identifying with this group. I'm identifying with this religious group or belief structures. And can you hear the background or no?
Not bad. No, I don't hear.
Okay. All right. So the challenge is that the brain is going to want to stay with the identity and be engaged with the identity instead of what is what the broader perspective is. They're going to let go of certain things. Yeah. So that's a big thing too.
Yeah. And I think that when you talk about the belief structure and well, the words that establish the belief structure, right? The words that are tactically used.
Yeah, so the main thing, Tom, is to get a hold of what the person's identity is. They're going to submit beliefs, strong beliefs about respect for um, uh, or the strong beliefs about fiscal responsibility, strong beliefs around the um, uh, uh, the stuff you mentioned about women and sexuality. So there's such they're going to set aside, because my identity is with this person now, instead of here's my core beliefs that are fundamentally against what this person has done, said, or is acting like. And it's only the folks that have a relationship with their rider and their elephant that they can take the elephant in different directions. So for example, like the CIA director Brennan, or some of these other well-known Republicans, Stierle, and all these different folks that are going like, hey, he is elected, but he's not our guy. He is not a part of the Republican value sets that we're looking to get done. He's not, he's not our guy, and we know we've elected him, and we know that he's in there, but he's not our guy. They've tapped their elephant away from, and they had enough flexibility to move in the direction of, and their brain going like, these are against, for him to run up the debt like this, and for him to give the money to the military that they didn't want, but the contractors and the companies and the service providers most certainly took it, and they figured out a way to spend the money that was there.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of disheartening, but this is the way the relationship of the brain works with the various different messages, because there's not a lot of time that people have to see the full picture of what's happening to them with the micro messages. They got to pay their bills. They got to do their tax. They got to, deal with car stuff and school stuff with their kids, and they're trying to create some relaxation, and all they have time for is a couple of little snippets of news, or snippets of late night TV, or snippets of conversation that all they're doing, and this is when it gets really troublesome, all they're doing is validating their current belief. They're not listening to somebody compassionately and empathetically to say the following sentence. Like, if you said the sentence, build the wall, watch what I say next.
Build the wall.
So could you be kind of a little scared and worried, and you want protection in America? Is that correct? And you want some safety? Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And you see, it's really important for safety to take place, and to keep people that aren't in our country not to come here to get what we would like, what we have, but really stay and work out their lives in a different country because they weren't born here. Is that correct?
Yes.
You really see the identity of an American is somebody that looks like is the people that you know in your community, not the new people that like to come here. Is that correct?
Yes.
See, all of this is empathetic and compassionate to the person's point of view. And now their elephant is not going to step on me or charge me, because it's true from their belief structure. And it's also true from their worries and concerns based on the messages that they've been fed and the repetition of those messages. There's a huge reason why the immigration issue has not been solved all the way from Reagan all the way to now. Huge reason.
What is that reason?
Because it can be a consistent stick to tap the elephants of the various different databases, or the various different bases of belief structures can be tapped one way or another. And all it's got to be done is, all you got to do is tap somewhere between I think now it's down to 5 to 10% of the population. You get them tapped over in the one direction, and then you get in, and your group is elected. You know.
Well, that's brilliant. Wait a second. So are you suggesting, and not even suggesting, it sounds like you're really coming out and saying that the reason that whatever the immigration issues are that need to be resolved or improved, changed in any way, have not really been tackled tremendously, is that it's a tool that people use to get elected, and it's too important to maintain it that way?
It's too important to solve it. Because then you've got to find out a new thing. Because Reagan did do the amnesty. He did take, okay, you all got here, and a lot of you got here illegally, so we're going to make you all citizens now. And they didn't fix it by doing that. They solved it. And then once they solved it, Clinton got elected.
Yeah.
See, it's like they had nothing to run on because there was no, well, they're already in. We already fixed that. Didn't we do that with Reagan? We got that amnesty thing did. And they never rewrote the rules to do it, to really fix it. So, because they couldn't handle the volume, and they weren't really focused on how to deal with populations and the movement of populations. Because, you know, who wants to live in a war-torn country? Who wants to live in a place that police don't stay in and provide the level of safety and protection for the people around them? You know, they'd rather come to a place that, yeah, there's not a gunshot every night.
Yeah.
Oh, we woke up this morning and, you know, Joe got killed last night. Oh, yeah, Sally got killed yesterday. Oh, yeah. And someone they know has just died. And who wants to live in that country? And then they're getting threatened because the violence, you know, is escalating, and not to say anything about our part in that, you know, which is, you know, a big part of, you know, other societal problems that the different countries have.
Isn't that interesting? You talked about the sort of the middle that can sort of be swung one way or the other by tapping that side of the brain. I'm remembering the term now is you know, coming up in my brain is Reagan Democrats, right? I mean, there was a whole group of people that must have been moved in that direction.
That's right.
Based on a belief that was tapped into.
That's right. They didn't necessarily like the holistic and inclusive worldview that Jimmy Carter was bringing forward, and say, hey, wait a minute. If we're going to really face the world's problems, and if we're really going to be the world leader, here are some things that we need to do. And then, you know, all you got to do is get kind of like the cowboy guy comes in that was literally a Hollywood cowboy actor. You get him to come in, and that is tapping into the belief structure of the past. And gosh, remember how good it was when cowboys were there and they were independent, and they got to have their own ranch, and they had their own cattle, and they made a living. It's like, have you ever been on a horse? You know, it's like, have you ever wrestled cattle? It's not all as romantic as you're making it right now. But it's a simpler time. And the elephant brain remembers that. And here's something, Tom, I think it's going to just freak you out a little bit.
Oh, lay it on me.
There's in my slide deck on beliefs, one of the things that I do on my slide deck on beliefs is I put in slides of dangerous animals in my beliefs, on my belief slides. Okay. And what I do is, as I start, so there's a spider and there's an alligator and all of them are in the attack and or the fangs of the spider going into somebody's hand. I mean, they're strongly energetically visual of you as a human being are going to get bit by this thing, even if it's on the screen, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the weird part about it is that the audience start to sense that it's coming. They start to sense that the slide is coming. There's a group of people that are sensitive in that way. They can see things coming. They're a little more future oriented. So when that slide shows up, I've had people leave the room because they have preemptively, energetically figured out that the slide was coming. They just picked it up because some people are very sensitive like that. Not everybody's sensitive like that, but some people are. Now, the weird part about that is that you don't have to do much to move the elephant in the direction that you would like it to move. But you do have to be consistent on it and stay with it. One of the biggest appeal for Bernie Sanders is he's been consistent on, and he has been stable on, the wealth part, the college part, and the healthcare part. And now, because he's been tapping that elephant, the whole party is every one of those folks has to have an answer for that. The only problem with everybody else that is looking to contribute to the new government that might be coming in is they haven't been as long as at it as he has. They haven't had the level of conviction and the engagement of that is really, really so important. Now, well, who else has been there for a long time? Joe Biden has been there for a long time. So do you pick the safe guy and just barely click it down the road a little bit? Or has the messaging of the elephant moved long enough and has been the tapping enough to say, this is how Americans are going to care for their people from here on out, the way the top industrial countries do. This is how the top industrial countries do it, and America is going to get into that game. We're not going to get into the competitive game regarding medicine. We're going to get into the collaborative game regarding medicine. We're going to all get there inside our group. We're all getting there because we all live here.
Isn't that interesting? So this actually explains why, even though these two gentlemen you mentioned are among the oldest candidates ever to run for office, it's why they're getting the most money raised and there's the most interest around them, because people's elephant brains are comfortable with, and there are beliefs that have been established that they can count on.
Yeah. There's no mistake that I mean, really, if I don't wake up every day and hear that Trump has fired someone, I'll think something's wrong. Something's wrong if he hasn't fired somebody. He has spent his entire life, and his brain has been cultured to, in his show, to be really good at firing people. Every show he fires everybody until the last person that's won. You're fired. So he's going to fire somebody tomorrow. Why is that a surprise? So it destabilizes. It's knowing what you're getting, but also knowing that the elephant and the rider have been moving in a particular direction for a long time. And it shows a sense of decisiveness, but it doesn't meet the need for stability, which is one of the primary needs that the government is supposed to meet for the people. Stabilize us by putting these infrastructures in and executing these laws so that we are stable, so that we have the protection we would like, and we can be efficient, and we don't have to be afraid every day. But my brain is already ready for who's going to get fired tomorrow, because this is a hallmark of his job in the past, is fire people that doesn't fit with the messaging or the thing he would like to do. And he's done that his whole life. So why is this a surprise?
Well, and clearly there's been a new normal that's been established in this current administration with, not just that kind of expectation, but also with, what the fact checkers point out on a daily basis, how many actual lies are in every tweet, every speech, every interview on television by the president. And that also has to be part of why at least half of America is so perplexed right now.
Right. That's a way to think about it. Confusion is a very important tool to keep the elephant into a compliance habitual way. If you keep them confused, they'll fall back to the habit. They won't look for growth or change or even question their own belief structures. I'm not going to question the belief structure because this teacher told me, that my parents modeled, my minister said, my the newscaster, which I am giving a lot of respect and credibility because I can't talk the way a newscaster talks. And I'm going to really pay attention to their messages because I can't do their job. Therefore, they're better than me. Instead of the reality is, here's a human being giving me a message. I need to do a better job of seeing if I'm going to take it or leave it. And that's really, really, really problematic. The brain. Let me say it this way and really get, and actually Roger Stone said this very clearly. He goes, I am a student. This is Roger Stone speaking on national TV. I'm going like, dude, do you really want to let everybody know this? Because I'm a student of Edward Bernays' The Book of Propaganda. I know how to create messages that people get a hold of and that are engaging for people to believe in. I'm listening to him, I'm going like, oh, he's telling the trick of a book that has been used both by the at the end of World War II to get Americans to believe in the 1950s version of America. That was a book that was propagandized. Here's the wife at home. Here's the husband doing the work. Here's the kids. Here's the suburb. This is the way America is to look. And that was the 40s, 50s mantra. It was like, this is the way America's supposed to look. And they put those pictures and they propagandized it out. At the same time, it was the same book used by Goebbels for Nazi Germany. This is the way Germans look. Germans they all going to get a house. They're all going to get their own Volkswagen. They're all going to get this vacation thing. They're all going to get this. Promise, promise, promise. And propaganda is not a bad word from the standpoint of the original definition, which is to propagate an idea or value you want to make seen or known to the world. It actually came out of the Catholic Church. There was the Italian word for propaganda is we're going to propagate the faith. Now, so because marketing has got a hold of this thing, because industry leaders have got a hold of this thing, it's like, how well do you saturate things to get the message out? Well, I don't want to talk to doctors anymore. I just want to saturate and talk to the person that is the patient. So guess what? We have ads for every single kind of medicine that comes out. They're not they're not selling to the doctor. They want the patient to go to the doctor and say, hey, I saw this Latuda thing. Would that be good for me? I saw this medicine. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to vomit, but you know what? It's better than this rash on my skin.
I'm always shocked with all the disclaimers when you see those, listen to those commercials on radio or see them on television. It's like, are people actually listening to this? Because would they ever take it if they really understood all this? But you're right that whole industry is reaching out to the end consumer, pulling them in to the doctor to request the medication.
Small messages to get the rider of this elephant to tap the elephant in the direction that they would like the person to go, so that they can embrace, the message.
Well, Bill, as I'm listening to this and learning, I'm getting a little depressed. Does this mean that there is no truth, to anything? Is it just our belief systems? I mean, I would imagine there has to be truth somewhere deep down.
There is. Okay, so as we kind of wrap up this, kind of portion of it, because I know that we've got things that get on with our day, we need to really stand for, what does mutual respect look like? What does a perspective around truth? And we'll talk more about the truth pie later. What does fairness look like? What does growth look like from an educational standpoint, and from how do we grow our people to get these higher paying jobs? Because a lot of them are underskilled and they're a burden with debt before they can get the next level of skill they need, and they ain't gonna do that and go into further debt when they've got so much debt already. So there's a few things to talk about as we continue down this path regarding truth, and be able to embrace kind of a new way of thinking about this. So this has been a great conversation, Tom.
I love it. Thank you so much, Bill.
All right. More to come.
Next time.
Until next time. Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.